Before we start officially, I want to give a thank you to JATV. They're going to be recording the program today so that anybody who can't make it, they'll be able to watch it when they have time later. That's a valuable service to the community, and we're appreciative of them for it. So with that, I think we can get started. Good afternoon. My name is Phil Schomber. I'm the adult programmer here at Heberg. I want to thank all of you for coming here today. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce our special guest, Inga Witscher. Inga is a fourth-generation farmer and owner of St. Isidore's Dairy in Osseo, Wisconsin. As I think most of you know, she's also co-creator and host of Around the Farm Table, which is in its 10th season on PBS. Inga's going to share a special recipe with us today with seasonal ingredients, and I'm sure we're all excited to see what she has planned for us. So with that, would you please welcome Inga Witscher.
Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I always like to enter like that because it's the most exciting part of my day. If I pop into the barn like that, the cows are just like, oh, great. You know, so thank you guys for making me feel welcomed. So if you were just brought here by a friend and have no idea who I am, my name is Inga. I'm a fourth-generation dairy farmer. I'm also a licensed Wisconsin cheesemaker. Wisconsin is the only state that requires a cheese-making license. And I own the smallest licensed creamery in the state of Wisconsin with just 6 cows milking. And they're all lovely and adorable, and of course they have their own names. And I also created the television series Around the Farm Table. So I'm actually from Washington State originally. That's where I grew up farming. Did anyone grow up farming, by the way? Any dairy farmers in here? Vegetable? Okay. Does anybody want to milk cows for me and my husband next weekend or the summer? Okay. That's always the hardest part about dairy farming. So my family came to Wisconsin in the late 90s. So quite a few of our dairy farm families from the Pacific Northwest, the Puget Sound area of Washington, in between Seattle and Bellingham, we actually moved to Barron County, Wisconsin, to continue farming. Where we were at, we were getting pushed out by urban sprawl, high land prices, all of the things that we face as, you know, just continuing on as a nation, right? And so we moved to Wisconsin. I didn't, actually. I wanted to become a hairdresser more than anything. So having grown up on a farm, I wanted nothing to do with a farm, right? I mean, I see a lot of head shaking. Yeah, you know what it's like. I was the youngest of 3 kids. I have 2 older brothers, and so I got to do kind of all the wonderful stuff on the farm. Basically, I was my grandpa's right-hand man on the tractor. I'd hold his cup of coffee, you know, while we fed cows, and got to do all that wonderful stuff. But like I said, I just wanted to do hair more than anything in the whole world. I just wanted to wear like all black and just do tons of makeup, you know, and just be clean all day long, right? I flunked beauty school when I was 18, so I had to figure out, what do you do? So that's when I moved myself to Wisconsin. My parents had moved here, and my brother started working on other dairy farms, and my parents said, well, we have this little 30-acre piece of land. We know you love vegetable gardening and things like that. What do you think about dairy farming? And I was like, there's no way I would ever become a dairy farmer. And my dad said, there's so much money in it, though. There's no money in dairy farming, Dad. The joke was on them. I ended up living with my parents in their house for years before I could afford to buy them out. So he learned his lesson on being truthful. But I ended up falling in love with farming. The first day I milked cows. So actually, let me tell you a story about this. I went to go get my loan from the Farm Service Agency. Farm Service Agency, FSA, is a place where a lot of beginning farmers would go for loans starting out. And I received my loan because I was socially disadvantaged, being a woman. And I always thought that was like funny. I'm like, I'm very social. I can throw, you know, like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't until after I realized that if you were a woman or a person of color and you submitted your application, it was thrown away. Like, it was literally just thrown away. So all of the women that I've, you know, I mean, women have farmed since the beginning of time. Dairy farmer actually translates into the Middle English word meaning day, women farmer. So actually women were the ones that milked the cows and made the cheese. So it's funny that we were never given the loans to do it ourselves. I will say 20 years ago, I did receive my FSA loan. All of the men in my neighborhood balked at me. They never thought I'd be farming. I'm one of the last standing farmers on the land. So I'd like to, thank you. And I will keep going until I'm the last one, just to spite them. But so now I've been farming in Wisconsin for a long time, and I just love it here, you guys. It is just the most amazing place. Now, when I first moved here, I milked cows in November. That's when I decided to start milking cows, my first year ever milking cows in November. Yeah. I had moved here from a place where we didn't have winter, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like today would have been a wintry day in Washington State, right? So when I came here, I didn't have long johns, wool socks. Yeah, it was horrible. I didn't even have windows or doors on my barn. Also, I didn't have any experience farming. So I was put in this barn with all these cows, and I was so scared at that time. I milked in a stall barn. My barn was a stall barn. So the cows would walk into the barn and go into their stalls like normal. And I had, what was I milking? 40 cows maybe that first day. It should have taken about 30 minutes or probably an hour start to finish. It took me 8 hours to milk the cows. I was just standing there watching these cows going up and down, just running, and I'm just shaking, and I'm sure they were like, listen, if you would just dial it back a bit and calm down, this situation could be all complete, but I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I got the cows milked. I got up the next day, I kept doing it again, and then winter showed up, right? And I was like, you are kidding me. And it had been one of those falls that was just beautiful, just like the beautiful fall weather. And I'm thinking, my brothers had already lived here for a while, and they're like, get ready. I'm like, oh, it's so cold in Wisconsin, you guys. Like, I'm barefoot, milking cows in the fall. And then one morning, and I had moved in with my parents, so I had my bedroom upstairs and they had their bedroom downstairs. And I remember that morning like it was yesterday. I opened up the door in my little windbreaker, to go outside and milk cows. And it was like, excuse my language, like hell had frozen over that night. I had no idea. I opened up the door, literally my eyelashes froze to my, oh my gosh. I jumped in bed with my parents so fast. And I was like, there's no way. Now, now I love living here. I really embraced it. My husband, the first year we were dating, he got me all wool everything. So that was a really good thing. So that's when I knew he was worth keeping. But it's just been wonderful. And so after living here, we really realized that Wisconsin is so much more than corn and cows. After, when I first moved here, I was like, oh, it's all dairy, right? It's the cheese state. We're the #1 producers of, I believe, goat and sheep's milk in the nation. Of course, we're the #1 producers of cranberries, horseradish, ginseng. We have so much diversity in our agriculture here in Wisconsin, not to mention just the diversity of what's happening on the farms with all kinds of heirloom vegetables, heritage breed products of porks, and all kinds of diversity happening. This is a wonderful time to be involved in agriculture, and that's why we wanted to bring our show Around the Farm Table to people. As dairy farmers, I realize that not everyone has that connection with farms, and it's nice. I was at a talk yesterday in Beloit, and no hands came up when I asked if there was anyone had grown up on the farm. And it's like, oh gosh, we're getting so disconnected from our food source and our land. And I think it's important for so many different reasons. But I'm here, see, this is why I'm on TV, is because they could cut all of this stuff out and they edit it down nicely, and then they'd say, Inga, start cooking. So let me dial it back a second. You guys, I never get off the farm. This is just so nice to look at all of you guys. And you just have to listen to me. My husband loves it when I come out to these, because he says, oh good, you get all your talking over, and then when you get home. So the first thing I'm gonna do let me tell you what I'm making, by the way. I'm making a farro salad. Does anybody use farro? Okay, a few people. So if you're not familiar with farro, it's a grain. It's a wheat grain. And I'm hoping that there's going to be more farmers in Wisconsin growing farro. So as far as I know, this is what it looks like cooked. And it does have gluten in it, so it's not a gluten-free option. But it's very high in fiber. And it's a low glycemic food. So this is going to be a great base for a salad that's going to keep you full all day or until supper, and it's also not going to spike your blood pressure. So as I'm hitting, I used to play it fast and loose with just having a martini and just washing that down with bacon, and a hamburger. But then around 40, my metabolism stopped working, and my doctor said, let's look at your cholesterol. And I was like, oh, wow, you can't do that forever. So I've been reframing my attitude and my diet as far as what I'm doing. Having been a dairy farmer my whole life, my whole life here in Wisconsin, I focus so much on the health of my animals. I've been certified organic for years. I gave up my certified status years ago, but I still do everything organically and naturally because I find that when I'm working with those natural situations, the health of everything is so much easier. One of the things I use on my farm for a natural antibiotic, if I have a cow that needs a little extra help, is garlic. So I use a tincture of garlic, cayenne pepper, and echinacea. And it tastes exactly how you would sound. Imagine it. What I do is I stick it right under the cow's tongue, and it absorbs through her blood, and it kicks into her system. And it just helps with boosting her immune system. I also give them aloe vera and kelp, which helps boost their immune system. So years and years, I'm doing all of this, right? And I'm like, okay, you want aromatherapy in the barn? That's fine. We will do that. We have chiropractor, all of this stuff. And I'm just like running around just having quick trip, and I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta slow down and start doing stuff better for myself. So this is one of those salads that I make. Also, nothing I say makes sense, by the way. I go on tangents. So, all right, so for my salad dressing, I think we should all be making homemade salad dressings. This is one of the first recipes that we learned as kids growing up on the farm, is just a nice little homemade balsamic vinegar. So I'm gonna take about 3 cloves of garlic. If I was making this at home, I would use more. I love garlic. My husband doesn't love me and garlic at the same time. Oh, I don't have a garbage can. That's okay.
Do you want one?
Yes, I would love a garbage can. Thank you. Here's the thing that I love is the people that I've got to meet through the show, although the fans are the best people ever, and I just feel like I have a mom wherever I go. So if you see something, just let me know, just pitch in. The first time I ever did a cooking demonstration, thank you so much. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was so nervous. This is when I first started our TV show. And I was going to Madison to this big event. And I was doing this cooking demonstration. I grabbed these jeans out of the dryer. And I have 2 sets of clothes. I've got my barn clothes and my good clothes. So I hadn't worn my good clothes for a while. Put them on. And I was like, oh. I said, Chance, my husband name is Chance. The dryer is malfunctioning. It's way too hot. That's really what I thought. And he's like, it's the refrigerator, darling, that's doing that. So I was like, well, whatever. These are the only pants I have. So I squish my little butt into these pants, and I get up on stage, and I'm nervous as all get out, and I'm just cooking away, and my skinny jeans are coming right off my butt. You know how they can do? And I'm moving around, and they're shifting down. But I'm like, what do you do, right? So I'm just full plumber behind me, but I'm cooking away.
Somebody's real happy behind you.
Well, yeah, guess what? I turned around, full mirror, reflecting everything. This was like 20 minutes into the demonstration. And then I looked at everyone and they're like, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If you see anything hanging out, let me know. Don't wait till the end.
Oh my gosh.
And then I started wearing overalls and dresses for like the next 5 years. All right, so I'm gonna chop this up. If you're doing this at home, you can chop up your garlic, do some dishes, throw a load of laundry, and let it sit for about 10 minutes. What happens then is all of the goodness of the garlic, all the compounds of the garlic can come out of the garlic that way. So it's just more potent in your recipe. So when you're cooking, you can think about, oh, I'm cooking for my health. I'm gonna do this with my garlic. All right, chop, 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 chop. And then that goes right into my bowl. I also, I'm a dairy farmer, I'm a cheesemaker, and I'm also a wife, and I hate doing dishes. So I put everything into one bowl. Cheese making, I'll give you a little secret. So cheese making is just doing dishes all day long and waiting for milk to warm up. It's not as romantic as you'd think it would be. So I do enough dishes in the creamery that when I'm making dinner, I'm just like, no, there's no more. So everything is done in one pot. So for my dressing, I've got my garlic in there. I'll do a little bit of honey. This honey just comes right from my farm. I'm lucky enough to have a beekeeper right there on the farm. I mean, he's just a friend of mine. He's not like my beekeeper. I just watched Meghan Markle's new cooking show on Netflix, and anyway, she had a beekeeper, and her beekeeper has long hair, and so does mine. I was like, oh my God. All right. Also, I was watching, this cooking show, and I was watching the behind the scenes, and they have like a full staff at their cook, and I was like, what? You guys have helpers? Like, wow, what does your husband do? And you're like, all right, so I'll put a little bit of honey in there, and then I'm gonna add some mustard. The mustard and the honey are emulsifiers for our vinaigrette we're doing here. This is Silver Springs brand. We produce this up in Eau Claire, where my farm's in Osseo, near Eau Claire. And this is the place that does all of the horseradish, and they do wasabi and everything like that, Silver Springs. I think one of our major agriculture exports is condiments, like super random, although I love condiments, but I'm sure it's because of Silver Spring. Also, that's not a fact. I was homeschooled. I feel like my parents did a mediocre job, so just always fact check me, okay? So I'm just gonna put a little bit of mustard in here. My dad, before he took over his dad's dairy farm, or took over his own dairy farm, he was a traveling musician and a comedian, but he wasn't funny, so he had to just get off the road. And he traveled with, and my dad is like, you would never know that my parents are my parents. They're so tiny, you know, and I'm like, where did you guys come from? You know, like, how did I fit in you? So he traveled with these showgirls, and all of the showgirls, a lot of them were single moms. And so they homeschooled their kids on the road and in the buses and everything like that. And my parents were, you know, right on the buses with them. So when they started having kids, they're like, let's homeschool. And then I think, and by the time we were in high school, they're like, go to school. Enough of that. So I've got my mustard, my honey, and my garlic. I've got recipes for this too. And if you guys weren't talking, you guys could have this done in 5 minutes, I bet. But what's the fun in that? This is, so this is a little balsamic. This is actually a fig balsamic that I grabbed off of my shelf here. And so I'm just gonna stir that in. So I'm just making kind of a paste. If you've never made your thick little paste, you do this with your technical right there. And you can also do this in a jam jar. It's really easy to do in a jam jar. And then a little bit of olive oil on top. I love these because I can buy cheaper olive oil and no one knows about it, you know? They're like, oh, look at you with your custom olive oil. I have a cousin, and she's a great friend of mine, and her friends are in a different tax bracket than I am. They're not farmers. And I was visiting recently, and one of her friends was like, oh my gosh, like, where do you buy wine in the country? You know, and I'm like, they're like, it must be so hard up there. Like, how do you, and I was like, we can't drink wine, man. We gotta get up and milk cows. But when we do, we get it from the same place I buy my chicken feed from. So it's all fine. My cousin that does the pastries, yeah, my cousin Cece. All right, so I've got my dressing almost done, and then I'm just gonna add salt and pepper. I do fresh cracked pepper. I think it makes all the difference in the world, guys. It's just, you know, it's one of those things that just really makes all the difference. One of my nephews is moving into his own apartment soon, which makes me feel super old. And I'm getting him a pepper grinder as a, you know, always do that. Here's another tip is kosher salt. I use kosher salt for everything. I never really measure it. I measure it with my hand. I also use kosher salt in my cheese making process as my cheese salt too. I think it just is overall just a, I don't know, it's just a better salt, I believe. So a little bit of salt goes in there. If you're doing this at home, just always be checking your seasoning. I just always feel weird if I'm cooking in front of you, just like, you know, you know, but when I'm at home, I do it. Okay. Put this to the side. Let me do this here. All right, and so again, this is your farro. When you're cooking your farro, it's really easy. It's about 2 cups or 3 cups of water or broth. You can use a chicken broth or a vegetable broth if you want to add more flavor to it. throw a little bit of salt in there, and then you're just gonna simmer that for about 20 minutes. The directions are always on the back of the bag. I prefer the Bob's Red Mill brand. I just love their company, and everything I get from there is always great. I don't have a local source to recommend for that yet, but if you are looking for local sources of other grains and flours, I would suggest Heartland Grains out of Lodi, Wisconsin, and Meadowlark. They're out of Viroqua. You might be able to find them at your food co-ops here or ask for their products. They're both regenerative farms that are doing wonderful things. And I do think I find that I have a sensitivity to store-bought bread, is what I call it. When we were kids too, of course, we never got to have like white bread until I went to a friend's house, and then they had Wonder Bread on the counter, and I was like, your parents love you. That must be nice. My mom makes her own bread. She's a weird hippie. But those are both great companies when you're thinking about your flour. I use Heartland Grains. Is it Heartland Grain? Heartland Flour. It's Rochelle and Evan. I know my farmers by their names, not necessarily by their farms. And I think it's wonderful. I was thinking about this. We should all know our farmers by their names. How many people know their farmers' names, right? So it's like we're eating every day, and we should know. The vegetables I don't grow, they come from Jake. Square Roots Farm is his farm's name, but he's my vegetable grower. I drive by his house on my way to yoga, and I check out how my vegetables are doing. I don't touch that farm, but it's my vegetable farm. I see how he's treating the soil, what he's putting into the soil, how he's tending it. I see what his cover crops are. I'm talking to him about those inputs. I'm talking to him about what is happening on the land, what they're growing. And it makes my experience as someone who eats completely different. I'll talk about that more in a second. I'm gonna put my farro in here. You can cook a bunch of farro maybe like on a Sunday and have it for the week. You can even make this salad up and it lasts for a week. The more it sits in the dressing, it just really soaks in.
Does that cook like oatmeal?
It cooks kind of like, I don't know if it cooks like oatmeal because I don't cook oatmeal actually, but it cooks like a rice, or you're just basically just cooking the farro down. But yeah, like an oatmeal with a lot of water. And then you cook it until it's al dente. It's a little bit chewy.
So what is it like when in the package? Is it?
It's dry in the package. It looks like a rice in the package. So it's more rice than oatmeal. And it's a nutty, grainy texture. My husband will, if he could live on processed foods the rest of his life, he would. But I would. But I like putting stuff on it. I use the farro as a base.
Can you put milk with it like oatmeal?
You could make a risotto out of it. You could make it a breakfast cereal too. But I love it because it really keeps me full so long. If I have this for lunch, I'm full until after supper, or after milking. And then I can, and I love to eat. So if it keeps me full, I feel like, oh, there you go. But it's just been kind of one of those great grains that I can be making. And it's so versatile. So anything, I'm just throwing in some spring ingredients today, but you can throw in anything you want. All winter, I was having this with some butternut squash, some kale, anything that I had in there. This is my clean out the fridge salad. This is my take to a potluck salad. This is if I'm having vegetarians over, this is my entree that I serve them with a fried egg or whatever. You can serve this with leftover chicken, salmon. So it's, does that kind of help answer your questions? That's a good question. It's hard for me to explain kind of the flavors of things sometimes. Again, I didn't go to culinary school. You might never have known that from my chopping. So I've got my grains soaking in there. Yeah, the very first season of our show, I got an email from someone and they said, your knife skills are terrible. I was like, yeah, no, I know.
That's terrible.
But they said, I'm worried you're gonna cut your finger off or something. But I live in farm country. All of my coffee clutch are 75-year-old men. I'm the only one with 10 fingers in that group. So if I lose one to a French onion soup, I'm fine with that. It's been so fun living in this little community of men farmers. We featured them on our show quite a bit, and our neighbors, they farm on both sides of me, and people have said, well, why don't you ever have women on the show? Why don't you ever have their wives sitting around the table? Oh, because their wives are all out working. The dairy farmers all have time during the day to sit around the table and, chew the fat and eat the food and say, gather with us next time, right? So that's why. And then they love to gossip. That's the other thing. Being a woman dairy farmer, I get to go to the guys' coffee clutch a lot. Oh my gosh, you guys gossip more than women. Oh. It's just incredible. I tell you what, though, you get to know a community when they forget you're there. All right, chop up that. And then I'm gonna add that right to it. All right. Onions, I could eat onions like apples. I just love onions. So you could use a red onion. They just have a more vibrant flavor. If you're using red onions and you don't like that kick of red onion, soak them in a little bit of water. So if you could slice them up, soak them in a little bit of water, that sucks out a little bit of that onioniness. So one thing I've noticed when I've been eating healthier is I'm adding flavor through herbs and different things instead of through a lot of cheese. I'm trying to cut back on my cheese. Oh, good luck, Inga. But so I've been adding a ton more herbs to my cooking. So parsley is one that I add to everything. I grow this in my garden during the season. And I give a lot of this, I'll throw this. I basically cook in the wintertime so that I can have food for my chickens. So this would go right to my chickens. This is a great source of iron for the chickens, also for me, and you probably as well. But I always love to have my scraps that go right to the chickens.
So are there plans to be back on a more regular basis?
A question was, is there a plan for me to be back on a regular basis? And the answer is no. I am done filming television in that way. Well, the thing is that, so I am the farmer at my farm. So my husband, actually, funny story, he wanted to be a dairy farmer when he was growing up because he had a cousin that farmed. He didn't make it. He actually runs his parents' hair salon. So, yeah. Just living each other's dreams right over here. But so I am the farmer, so I've got to make sure. So over the last 10 years, I've loved working with PBS and doing television, but I got to get my cows bred. I got to watch, make sure I'm getting them bred. I'm the one that milks. Last night I had, for the very first time, my neighbor Heath, who is 16, his grandpa's always on our show, and actually he's been in our show forever. He took over milking last night for me. And so I hardly slept at all. And he's just like, Inga, I've been around cows my whole life. Like, they're fine, But so with trying to get out and film everywhere and then already putting in about 12 hours on the farm, it's just got to be too much. And I love it. I've learned so much throughout the years and visiting other farms. And so I was telling my husband this. I was like, I have such a desire to share my knowledge of what I'm learning because I'm learning along with everyone else. I'm learning just how important soil health is to the food that I'm eating and to the animals that I'm raising. So I don't want to stop doing that. And I think it's so important. I hope that if I come back here in a year and I say, what's the name of some of your farmers? Everybody knows the name of their farmers, or the name of the person they get their eggs from or their chicken from or their, because it's so important for us to connect back with that community, right? These are the people that feed us. So I want to keep telling the stories. So we are going to do more of a web series, so we can just film on the farm and then get to other farms as the season allows. One thing that was hard for us is working with a camera crew. I loved my camera crew more than anything, but we'd have to work around schedules of all of the other shows that everybody was filming. So a lot of the times we were giving slots to film in February, which is hard when, nothing's growing in February. So we're hoping by doing this, we can be a little bit of a different, shift. And I want to show more in-depth cooking. So I cook a lot now as, I buy my chickens from a guy and I make 3 or 4 meals out of that one chicken. That chicken is about $20, but I'm getting all of these meals out of it. So I want to do more of teaching people more of how I cook. Really of the day-to-day stuff. Instead of doing television, you have to really plan for, okay, I have to be able to cook this in this time, and then we're sitting down at this time, and then I have to have this guy filming at this time. So now I can be a little bit more freer, spontaneous. And, like I was thinking, there's a woman in our community, she's a veterinarian, she's a natural veterinarian. So she has a lot of my products, like my garlic that I was telling you about, or my aloe vera. And I was thinking about all the wonderfulness of living rural and these community farmers and things. So she lives about an hour away from me, and I ordered some stuff online from her to get, and she says, well, the shipping is gonna kill you. It's gonna be $100 for me to ship it to you. But my friend goes to church, or the lady I go to church with, she lives, just 2 roads behind you. Well, that's like living next door in the country, So she's like, so I'll just take products to church, put it in her car, you pick it up on her front porch. I get a text from this lady. I've never met her. She just moved here from New York City. I just realized she lives in my community. And she's like, I got your stuff on my porch. Sends me a picture. I load up milk from my cows to take over to my neighbor, go by her place, pick up my stuff, then drop off my little milk. And I was like, this is what I love about the countryside, is like, and I did it all in my yoga pants and t-shirt, no bra. I was like, this is perfect. I was gonna put some chives in, but those are looking a little worse for wear there. So we're gonna kind of reinvent a little bit and just have more fun with it. We do have a big event on our farm every September. We're about 3 hours away.
What are you chopping?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I want to take you with me to all my cooking demonstrations from now on. This is super helpful. So she asked what I was doing. I'm chopping up some dill. Dill is one of my other favorite. So dill I use obviously in culinary canning, but I use it a lot in my flower arranging too. Nothing is more beautiful than dill and zinnias all together in an arrangement. I love it. And they are also a host to, I think, the swallowtail butter. Yeah, so they're also, when you're planting native plants in your garden areas, dill's maybe not native, but it hosts those different things. That's a whole nother topic I could talk forever on. I can just geek out on some of this stuff. One thing we do at our farm that I really love, farming is just such a part of who we are as people. I think as when we're chosen to be a farmer, I feel like I was chosen to be a farmer because guess what? I was kicking and screaming not to become one, and here I am, But I just think that there's such a beautiful relationship that I'm having lately with my animals, with my land. So for years and years, I milked about 45 cows on 28 acres, and I was losing money every year, as a good dairy farmer always does. And so I'm a grass-based farmer, so I do intentional grazing all around during the springtime. So I was losing money. What do I do? What do I do? And I just always was telling myself, well, I just need more land. If I had more land, I could fix everything, because then I could grow my own feed and everything. Like I'm one person, and no land was ever gonna come up for sale. And I just kept beating my head, oh, poor me, poor me. And then we started doing this show, and it was like, I'm watching people growing vegetables on an acre, doing these whole creative things on zero land. They're just making it work for them. And so then I had to say, oh, I should just make it work for me. Like, what am I doing sitting here? I have 28 acres. Yeah. Oh my goodness, a beautiful farmland, it's a lot. So and then as we entered another dairy crisis in the mid-teens here a few years ago, my knife skills today are really horrible. It's just because I'm excited about talking. But so in goes some radishes. So what happened a few years ago is dairy farmers mid-size, like my size, were getting a letter in their mailbox in my area saying, we're not going to pick up your milk anymore. You got to have a new market for your milk in 2 weeks. And so say you've been selling milk to this creamery for generations, right? I mean, a lot of these guys, generations of their family have been selling to these creameries. And then what was happening is the creameries are saying, does it make sense for me to pick up your milk or go pick up 5,000 cows down here? So I was waiting for that letter in my mailbox saying, we're not gonna pick up your milk. I don't have any other skills, guys. I can't go get a job. Like, I don't, so I was like, and I love farming, so I had to make it work for me. I was like, I am not going to stop farming. I love my cows more than anything in the world. I love my land more than anything in the world. So I had to figure out how I'm gonna stay on my land. So I downsized my herd down to 6 cows. I have 6 cows right now. I'm more profitable than milking 50 cows. Right now, and I'll just say this as like, not to brag, but so the milk price right now, I think is around $28 per 100 pounds of milk. That's how milk gets sold. You get sold by the 100 pounds of milk. So I think right now it's about $25. I think that break even for a farmer is somewhere around $28. So farmers have been losing money nonstop. When my dad stopped farming in the 80s or 90s, his price was about $25. Well, things have changed since the 80s and the 90s, right? Boy, my prices have sure gone up just in the time I've been farming. So farmers are just, I mean, it's just scary, it's so scary. The suicide rate of farmers is skyrocketing. Huge, huge problems. So I knew, what am I gonna do? I mean, I was one of those farmers that was like, I don't know if I can't be a farmer, I don't know what I wanna be. And so I really had to figure out what I'm gonna do. I downsized my herd. I was building a creamery into my existing barn. So I've always been on a budget. So I'm building my creamery into this existing barn, my 100-year-old barn. And the day before my equipment arrived, my barn completely burnt to the ground. So I hadn't had an income, and I was just like, all right, come on. This is the second I can start making cheese, I can get to the markets, and everything is gonna be fine. So that burnt down in November of 2018. And so it was, okay, well, we're gonna get through, I think as a farmer, you just have to be optimistic. So I was optimistic. And then that was in November. The cows were bred to calve that next March. January, I was pulling hay out of my hay shed as the snow load was crushing the building. So I was pulling my hay out because it was the last hay I could afford that year, so I couldn't lose it. And so the snow load busted that. But I still had an outdoor space about this big for my cows for the wintertime for them to get under. That collapsed then in the next month. So I was like, another martini, please. Keep them coming. But it was so horrible, and I just was like, how do I get through? I mean, I couldn't go to my mailbox because my anxiety was so bad that I would have I couldn't even look at a bill because it was like, what's the point? There's no point to this. And meantime, like I'm going places and people are like, can you donate this to our organization? We see you on TV. And I'm like, I really want to, but I don't have the gas to get there. I mean, that's how bad it was. It wasn't like, it was really bad. Thank God I farm. Thank God I had a steer in the freezer. Thank God I have milk and I had cheese. Thank God that I had these things. So it got so hard. And we started rebuilding. And in 2020, we thought, this is going to be the best year of our lives. So that spring, as everything got shut down, my cows were starting to calve. Or no, it was before we got the barn built that the cows were starting to calve. And I was just sitting there and I was just like so upset. And how do I have my cows calve if they don't have a barn to go into? What do I do? How do I separate the calves from the cows? That's what we do as dairy farmers. How do I manage this? Most importantly, what are the neighbors going to say about me? I wasn't so worried, I mean, farming is like, there's a lot of that goes along. And I remember my two neighbors, the guys that were on my show until this happened, they came, my supportive neighbors, there were still flames going. My one neighbor said to me, good, build a bigger kitchen. And he walked away. And I asked my other neighbor, I said, can I put these cows up at your farm that butts up against mine to get water for the rest of the day until I can figure out where to put them? And he said, it'll be $100 a day. And I was like, your guys aren't on my show anymore. But then I was like, oh, okay, thanks guys. And so then I was like, all right, well now I want to go even far. I mean, it really helped me to be successful, just being like, oh, yeah. And well, now his grandson's down milking for me, and guess what? I think he likes it at my place better. So payback is a B, All right, so to finish up this salad, I'm just gonna put in some dried cranberries. I like the sweetness that goes with the salad and everything like that. It makes it feel more fun and exciting to me. As a dairy farmer, you need fun, exciting things in your life, So cranberries are those for me.
You've had enough exciting things in
I guess. So a little bit of cranberries, and then I do blue cheese. I love the sharpness and the punch of. I want everything I eat to just punch me right in the face. So it's like garlic, blue cheese, anchovies, stinky cheese. Like that's what I love. And unfortunately, my husband has to love that now too because he lives with me. But you can use a feta cheese. If you're having someone over that is vegan, this is a great recipe. Just don't even put the cheese in. You could use anything you desire. But and you could even add some pistachios to this. I do that every once in a while, or some sunflower seeds. But see, it can be like, I actually made this for Christmas and plated it up. And it's pretty, right? Like I put some sliced sweet potatoes on it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, but this is just, it's an easy meal to have with, like I said, with your leftover chicken or whatever. My husband loves farro salad, so we have it a couple times a week. And our chickens just started laying eggs, thank God, because I just went to the grocery store. So we'll have our first eggs tonight with a farro salad. Before I stop, though, I want to say, as we're talking about the rising cost of eggs and things in the store, I want you to remember that if I was going to be raising eggs to sell at the farmer's market at the store, it would probably cost me about $8 break even to produce those eggs. When we're getting cheap food, we have a lot of things that happen with that cheap food. So I think when we're having this conversation about eggs and things like that, with the things that are happening, I think it's a good time for us to talk about paying for food. I charge $20 for a half pound of cheese. It's the most expensive cheese in Wisconsin right now, at $40 a pound. I'm very proud that I charge that because I put in so much hard work behind the scenes. When I manage my pastures of my land, say I have a field that's this big, I'll separate that pasture up into small, so just like this grouping right here, this would be where I would have my 6 cows for 6 hours in the spring, and then I'll change them. As the grass slows down, I'll change them every 12 hours. What happens when they're doing that is they're out harvesting their own feed. I'm not using fuel, we're not running machinery, and as my neighbors are judging me, driving by in their tractors, I'm judging them and saying, hi guys, I'm just here chilling out, meditating my field. So they're harvesting their own feed, they're spreading their own manure. Yep. They're also harvesting this amazing resource, grass. This is something that is so great. It needs very little to grow, water, it's the sustainable resource. We cannot digest that sustainable resource, but we can in milk and meat. I grew up vegetarian. I eat meat now, but I need to know its hobbies. I want to know its grandmother's hobbies, and I want to talk to the person that raised it because I want to know what I'm eating. When my cows are also, when they're out grazing, they're providing all of this habitat for grassland bird species. So there's certain species like meadowlarks and bobolinks that can only nest in undisturbed grasslands. So if I was taking a tractor through there and harvesting green chopping or something, there wouldn't be areas for them to nest. So I take very much precaution from start to finish, not only in how I treat my animals, but very much how I treat my land. I constantly want to be building that soil because I know that we are that soil.
You don't see meadowlarks or bobolinks.
You don't see them anymore. They're just disappearing. 10 years ago, when we did our first season, I interviewed a woman, Helen Keyes. She's in her 70s right now. Just the most remarkable woman. She farms with her daughter. Her husband helps out from time to time. They do beef and vegetables. And I think she's the 6th generation on her farm. And she said to me at the farmer's market, her booth is across from ours, and she said, do you see that woman that just walked out? I fed her when she was in her mother's tummy. I fed her kids when her kids were in her tummy. I've been feeding that family for generations. They are a part of my farm because they are a part of my soil. She says, Inga, when we feed people, we're feeding them from the ground up. Every time someone gets a wedge of my cheese, they're getting a piece of my land and really a piece of my heart from start to finish when they're taking that. So, that's why it's so important to know where our food is coming from, because you want to find those farmers. You want to find the farmers that think about your health, the health of the land, more than you ever will. And, think about those people like Helen or someone like me that really wants to, really change my 28 acres to in this beautiful landscape. What I see that doing is I've seen my land change completely. I wish I had pictures, but I didn't have an iPhone all those years ago. To see how the land has changed just from putting cows on there. Just from them walking out there. Their feet will create little divots in the land to allow airflow through. They have microorganisms in their breath that actually help the grass grow. There's this whole symbiosis with the cows and the land that I love. I sit there and I watch them. I sit there and I watch them, and it's just so calming to me. After the fire, when we had, sorry, take a picture because I was wiping my nose when you did that one. Make sure I look cute. When I was, all those years ago after the fire, I was that spring when the cows calved. I was so nervous because I had no place to put them. And I watched them, and they took care of themselves. They took care of each other. Sharon, she's our older cow. She's a beautiful red cow, and she's our grandma cow. I don't call her that to her face. I still tell her she's a young lady. But so she, after all the cows calved, she had already had her calf, a week before. She lets the moms rest over here. The calves were running around because I didn't have a place to separate them, so they were out running. So she would go and sit there with them like a nanny, and then they would take turns. Sharon would come back, and then Gertrude would go. And they're all taking care of each other. And I thought, if I would have had a community like this, I would have had kids. I absolutely would have had kids. This is the most amazing thing. The other thing that happened is the calves, they were nursing on their moms all day long, right? And whenever they needed to. In a conventional farming system, we feed them twice a day, then we separate them out. I was growing the healthiest calves I've ever seen in my life. They were so healthy. There was no health problems with these calves. The hardest part about them is that they could run like 30 miles an hour just across the pastures, and it was like, but what happened is I would watch. Their mothers would teach them where the fences were. They would teach them how to graze. They taught them where the water was. And I realized, oh, Inga, if you just relax a little bit, you can learn a lot from nature. But it's just been so interesting to learn how that nature has its course. And that's why on our farm, I don't want to disrupt that course. I want to let the cows out there to graze. And we bring them in for milking, and then they go back outside. They stay outside 365 days a year. We do have a barn now that they have access to come inside. So they'll come in tonight because it's supposed to be icy rain. So I'll open it up tonight. And then usually it's only the springtime when we get our spring snows that they want to get out of the snow. But other times they look like little ladies on Fifth Avenue with their fur coats, just huge, just cruising around. They're just so hilarious. But yeah, so that's another great reason to support local farmers, is just because we really think about things from the start to finish, so that we can make sure that we're bringing a really great product to market. When we're harvesting, really quick, I know we're wrapping up here. When vegetables are harvested, they typically come from about 1,500 miles away from the grocery store that you're getting them from. So for us, that means California probably. What happens is that those vegetables, the 24 hours after they're being harvested, they start to lose nutrients. They're also being harvested before they're at their peak readiness. They're not being harvested that morning and then being put at the farmer's market for you. They're being harvested and shipped. The varieties that are being planted are in the conventional system are being chosen for shippability. Uniformability and shippability, not for flavor. When you're going to the farmer's market or joining a CSA, you're gonna have flavorful food. What happens, why your food tastes so good too, is because that soil is correct. When your soil is correct, your food tastes better. Because our bodies want the minerals, they want the vitamins, and that's what tastes good to us. Of course, sugar tastes perfectly good to us as well. But you start shifting over and you're like, oh, okay, I want these good ingredients. I don't hope that kind of makes sense, but just look for your local farmers in your area. Talk to them, get to know their names, get to know why they're passionate about what they're doing, and pay what they're charging for their products, because we don't all have yachts just parked somewhere. That's the secret or something like that. No. So it's whatever you're paying for your food at the farmer's market, it's not nearly enough probably. But thank you guys so much. Is there any questions?
Yeah, you started to talk about your events that you hold up at your farm.
Yes, so the question was about our event at the farm. We have an event on September 14th this year. It's a Sunday. We live in Osseo, so it's about 3 hours away, but it's worth the trip up. We invite people that we featured on our show from the last 10 years to come out, set up a booth, talk to you about what they're having. It's all of my favorite vendors that I shop from that we come to the farm. So hopefully I'm gonna be having my friend Walk Era Wagyu. She raises Wagyu that's the best. Oh my gosh, it's just so delicious. We have, of course, my friend who does honey. We have our cheese there, all kinds of different things. We're also hopefully having my friend Sam Thayer. He's a wild food expert. He's on the Larry Mueller Show. A lot of you have heard him. He will come and lead a wild food tour, edible food tour, kind of different things. So it's a fun mismatch. Again, we're going to be starting our own YouTube channel as soon as I'm in charge of it, so it probably won't be for like another 6 months, but we'll see. But if you'd like, you can sign up for our email list, and we can let you know when we have other things happening. So, question back here.
Where do you get the clothes that you wear on your TV?
A question, where do I get the clothes that I wear on the show? Thrift stores. I'm a thriftaholic. Yes. So actually, I was just at a Grace thrift store. Oh my gosh, I will come back weekly to go there. That is seriously the best thrift store. I used to, like, okay, next time I come, we're doing like a thrifting like tour. So I get a lot of this. There's someone that had donated a bunch of Lands End gingham shirts that was my size to my local thrift store, and I was like, I'll take every single one of those. So yeah, I'm a thrifter through and through. Like, I find so much. I was telling my stepdaughter, I have a wonderful stepdaughter, and I'm trying to get her. I guess 10-year-olds aren't as interested in thrifting as like me, but I'm like, here's the thing. You know how dad goes out and he hunts, and he's like, he loves that. That's his time. This is our hunting, okay? Go, and you don't know what you're gonna find, It's so funny. But yeah, thrifting a lot. Lands End, I love their stuff. Yeah. Or hand-me-downs. Yeah, which I met up with a bunch of my aunt and some of her friends, and we had a boot sale, so we just opened up our trunks and threw out all of our stuff, and then we went through each other's clothes and grabbed what we wanted to out, and I thought, this is what I love, about community and living. I've been doing this thing recently too, where I'm just completely slow living. And it's just been so great. I'm getting rid of my internet soon. we live in the middle of nowhere. It's spotty anyway. Yeah. And we're like, why don't we just read books? We go to bed at 6:30 after milking. It's like, it's the most wonderful life now. I'm kind of learning to not be so stressed out. Again, that's my really short answer of where I get my clothes. I don't mean to always have a philosophy behind everything. It's just, I spend a lot of time in my head, Any other questions? Question here.
Do you have a cookbook?
Do I have a cookbook? No, I don't have a cookbook. Have you noticed that my thoughts go everywhere?
The way for you to write a cookbook would be to do a memoir with recipes.
I think I could do that. I think I could do more of a storytelling recipe book. Yeah, I think I'll start working on something. Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, it's hard with getting my thoughts in one place. Where was the question? Back here?
I had heard this morning about colony collapse amongst many of the beekeepers, and I was wondering if you are experiencing any of that, and also if you've heard from your friends who raise chickens about any concerns about bird flu.
So the question is, colony collapse with bees. We lost all of the bees at our farm this year, so he's going to be replacing them again. Our beekeeper lost pretty much, I think he said 90% of his bees this year to colony collapse, so it was a big issue. Colony collapse is, could you speak more about it's kind of like a disease that bees get, and it kills all the bees in the hives. It's like a mite or something. I don't completely understand it. What was the second question?
About the threat of bird flu.
Oh, the bird flu. So bird flu right now, our dairy farmers are getting pretty concerned about it as it's transferring over to cows. So it's a conversation I've been having a lot with other people about what's going on. My brother runs turkey farms, so he'll run a barn like this in turkeys that has, 50,000 birds in it or something at a time. And so he's he's like, don't even look at me. You have chickens on your house. Don't even say hi to my children, So I'm not concerned. I'm not at all concerned. I think, and this is why. So as we see these diseases coming in, I'm continuing just to build the immunity of my cows. I really am just like hammering it in on low stress life, easy living, and getting them the nutrition they need so that if we do see that bird flu coming into the cows, they can fight that off a little bit easier. I don't have a ton of friends besides my brother. We're not really friends, we're just brother and sister, so just kidding. So he's the only one that I really talk to. As far as small flocks go, I haven't really seen, I haven't heard Well, all of my friends that have small flocks are saying, hey, we're making a lot of money off selling chickens right now. This is great for us. And because they've been seeing a lot of people coming to buy baby chicks to raise their own chick. I will say, like, it does take quite a while for those baby chicks to lay an egg, and they'll probably die before you get them to lay an egg. Because your dogs or something will eat them, because everything loves to eat chickens. I won't bring in. I just bought an animal from a woman I know. I just bought a cow from a woman I know, and I trust her. I won't be bringing in any other animals from any other farms, because of that. I think a lot of the fairs are going to be seeing some consequences with bringing animals in and things like that. So, but I think it's the world we live in now, and I think too when I'm just a farmer, but I was reading a while ago, a month ago or something, that we had a whole, there was 10,000 birds or something in upstate New York that were killed or whatever. Well, that's nothing, you guys. That's like a batch. That's like a half batch. Like when we talk about chickens especially, like this is again like what I want to start talking about is like food labeling. What does cage-free chickens mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means they're not in a cage. You can still have a billion right in this space that they have, they're walking around like this, it doesn't mean anything. And just because they put that picture of, grass on the label doesn't mean anything. What does, I think they have a grass-fed or a pasture label. That just means that bird has this much access to this much space outside. That's access for all of those birds. It's like it doesn't make sense. That's why we need to start talking about this and like understanding. So, like, when a flu comes through a barn like that, it will take it all out. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? It's too many rats in a cage. So that's why we love to be outside and breathing, outside and doing natural. I hope that we can see things coming back to more of finding your local egg producer and supporting them and different things like that. Because too, you're not only supporting that person in your community, but you're building that community too. You're meeting those people in your community. Your money's staying right there. On average, a farmer only gets 14 cents of every dollar you spend. When you're buying directly from that farmer, they're getting that whole dollar. So think about that too. Thank you for enjoying all the random thoughts in my mind. Thank you guys too. Thank you again for being here. Please come on up and we can talk more. Thank you.